Hi, it's Gary from the RGGS podcast, and I myself and the rest of the team would like to say a massive congratulations to David and the team over at the One Up Gaming podcast on their 250th show. Well done, guys, and keep up the great work.
Congratulations to One Up Gaming for reaching 250 podcasts. That's veteran status on that one, and we are very glad to have been able to join these podcasts, quite a few, at least Jon has, and we hope to join many more. Good luck in the future.
Hi, I'm Keith Allen, and I play Murphy on Z Nation, and I listen to One Up Gaming Podcast.
Hi, I'm Lucy James, and I listen to the One Up Gaming Podcast.
I bang with One Up Gaming, drop more hits once I'm famous. The best, that's what our aim is. All platforms, what your game is. To the leaderboards, I'm coming. See me in a shooter, I can promise I'll be gunning. When I hit the music charts, I swear I'm gonna run it. Can't take One Up, you can try, but we done it. Let's go. Alright, let's go to the best place for reviews I know. Xbox One and PS4, Wii U as far as consoles go. They do handheld PCs, merchandise for you and me. Contests that you gotta do, the prizes are for gamers who going hard all day. We really the boys cause it's just that great. Can't lose as much at stake. You're a certified badass when you play.
I bang with One Up Gaming. I bang with One Up Gaming.
I bang with One Up Gaming. Drop more hits once I'm famous. The best, that's what our aim is. All platforms, what your game is. To the leaderboards, I'm coming. See me in a shooter, I can promise I'll be gunning. When I hit the music charts, I swear I'm gonna run it. Can't take One Up, you can try, but we done it. Let's go.
And we're back. It's me, David. It's One Up Gaming, episode 250. And this week we've got a special co-host. So if you just want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yes, I'm David Schroeder. And I had the pleasure of talking with David Cameron and One Up Gaming years ago, 5 or so years ago, when I was doing a revival game of one of my 8-bit games from over 35 years ago. The game for the old Apple II back in 1985 was called Dino Eggs, and my revival game from about 4 or 5 years ago was called Dino Eggs Rebirth. And I have great memories of you staying in touch, talking at that time, David, and staying in touch over the years here and there. And congratulations on your 250th. That's really, really exciting. I'm delighted that you've made such a great run of this series.
Well, thank you very much. And I will say, I do remember playing that game, and at the time, I don't think it was on Steam or anything. I think you just sent over the actual file itself.
I think I did. It probably was in the middle of the development, yeah, because it was developed by a wonderful programmer in Luxembourg who actually contacted me because he was 10 years old in 1985, when the game came out, and he became a great fan of it. And then about, like I say, 6 or 8 years ago, he contacted me and say, I've been kind of working on an expansion of this universe, of this Dino Eggs universe on contemporary computers, and would you like to see what I'm doing, and is that okay? And I took a look at what he was doing, and I just thought it was so creative and interesting, and kind of expanded what I did, 35 years ago in really amazing, unexpected ways. So I said, hey, do you want to work together and get something together on Steam and such? And so he had a day job and I had a day job. So, it was one of those projects that did take a while. But I still hear from people, fans of the original games that I did 35 or so years ago, and that's really every 6 weeks or so I hear from someone new, and they're also very surprised when they hear the other games I wrote. They kind of encountered my games one at a time and didn't necessarily know that I also wrote other games like Crisis Mountain and Short Circuit back in the mid-'80s for the Apple, and Also, a game I did for the Amiga. You mentioned Amiga in one of your other Contacts program features. I did work on the Amiga on a game called War in Middle-earth, which was an adaptation of the Tolkien books. This was before they were household words. Now pretty much everyone knows Lord of the Rings and what the books are generally about and the movies. But back then they were not household words. And we had some really big Tolkien fans at a local software company in Seattle called Synergistic Software, and they got me involved in doing animation and art for War in Middle-earth, which was the name of the game. And there are people who are enormous fans in the late 80s of War in Middle-earth on the Amiga. It was also on the Apple II GS, but it was written on the Amiga. And how exciting it was to see what that machine could do after the Apple II. Yeah, those are really fun things, and it's great to hear from people for whom they had an impact, so many years ago in their childhood.
Yeah, I mean, like, you say, like, the Apple II. I remember, I don't know if it was different in America, but over in the UK, when I was growing up, I didn't even know the Apple II played games. It was just what we had in the school with I think it was like the actual encyclopedia sort of discs, just to try and learn sort of stuff on. But yeah, I don't know if they were like more gamified in America or if it was just the UK.
Well, Apple was always very aggressive at getting the apples into schools, and apparently that was the case there as well. Over here, they were both, a retail home thing and a school thing. But it sounds like maybe in your years in the UK, it was only a school thing and not so much a home thing. The landscape, what I find, it's so amazing. People, their childhoods, when they're about 8 years old to 12 years old or 16 or whatever, this is kind of random. What technology was available? What did their parents buy for them? And a lot of times that was completely arbitrary. Did they buy them a Commodore 64? Did they buy them an Apple? Did they buy them an Amiga? Did they in later 80s? But then that becomes what you grow up with. That becomes what you know. And then, just next door or in the next block, there's someone who's maybe a year older than you or a year younger than you who has a completely different landscape of, what computer games are out there because they have a different computer or something. And yeah, it's kind of painfully random when you look back on it because people's imaginations are fired in certain ways or not fired in certain ways. And it becomes a big part of people's growing up.
Yeah, I mean, what I think's completely funny is in the UK, it was completely different to America. In the UK, we had much more microcomputers, like the Spectrum, the Commodore 64, the Amiga. The Nintendo Entertainment System was not a thing in the UK.
Right.
And a lot of people in America don't really know much about the Master System from Sega, but in the UK, that sold 3 times as many as the Nintendo.
Yeah. I remember hearing about in the UK, of course, things were very, very different there in the 80s before the internet and everything, but I do remember hearing that in the UK, games kind of came and went off the top 10 list of sales, kind of like hit records, in the sense that there was a lot of ups and downs rather quickly. In other words, a game would, and I think weren't a lot of your games then on cassette tapes, before floppy disks kind of got set up in cartridges. Seems to me that was the Spectrum a cassette-based system?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And I seem to remember that someone saying that in the UK, the pattern was that a game would be a big hit for 1 or 2 weeks and then fade away, kind of like a hit record on what in the United States we called the Billboard charts. And that wasn't the case over here. Things over here, for some reason, moved much more slowly. A game would kind of climb up the list and month by month would stay there and then kind of fade down. And for some reason, in the UK, it seemed more like a hit of the week kind of rhythm. And I have no idea why that was. If that had to do with just cassette tapes being a more ephemeral kind of thing, or I have no idea. But I remember hearing that at the time.
I think the big reason would be, say, like the Amstrad. Like you could get the cassette version of a game for the Amstrad, is it CP, somewhat stupid, but the game itself was like $2.99, so $3. And then they released the Amstrad 4000, I think it was, which was like a console, and those games were £30, so about $35, and it was the exact same game. So I think in the early 80s, a lot of the games were only like £2-3. So there would be so many games just changing all the time.
Yeah. I bet that's a big part of it is the pricing too. Just kind of because when you set a price and the culture becomes, oh, this is how much they cost or this is how much they don't cost, you do kind of set a set of expectations with the public about, well, how big are they or how deep are they, and so that probably was just different. It was just a different kind of price point, a different sense of investment in the game. And then, as you say, it can change. It's like over here, the cartridge games always were more expensive, and you had really a sense of investment in the cartridge games because they cost more.
So I think that's one of the main reasons the NES didn't take off. Because especially when you're like a stupid 10, 15-year-old kid, you just see the same cover of a game. You don't realise it's completely programmed differently. You just see one's £2, one's £30. So I'll buy the £2 one, it's fine.
Yeah, and all those companies too, the hardware companies and the software companies at that time in the 80s, they were all making it up as they went along too. They were just, how does this work? What is this? One of the games I'm really happy with game. I wish it had sold more, gotten more out there, was a set of Christmas games that got a really prestigious publisher. But it was an old school publisher. It was a print-oriented publisher, Random House, and that's here in the States anyway. People knew that name. It was a very fine source of print books, but they didn't really know how to sell computer games. It's just they sensed, oh my gosh, we'd better get on this bandwagon, or else we're going to miss something important here. So they were kind of stumbling around, not knowing how to sell the Christmas games. And so I hear from very few people. Every once in a blue moon, I hear from someone who ran into the Christmas games and liked them. But they didn't know what to do with that. And they got out of the business, I think, just a year or two later, because it was just too ephemeral for them. It was just too here, there, today, gone tomorrow. They were more into long-term print books they understood.
Yeah, 'cause it's like in the UK in the mid-80s, the cassette games, you could literally go down to, they were even selling them in the pharmacist. So they had like a kiosk stand, and you just go there, and because they're only £2-3 each, there was just everywhere. But the actual cartridge games, you had to go to like a Toys R Us or some dedicated store.
Yes. Where are they sold? I think Random House, again, they didn't know how to get the games into the places where people were actually buying these games, because it wouldn't have been the case yet then that big bookstores would have a section for computer software. I mean, now they do, but and I think in the mid to late 90s they did, but in the 80s they did not. No one would think of going to a bookstore to get computer software. So yeah, that was the bind they were in, and they couldn't figure it out quick enough for my game anyway.
So, the game that you've sort of like got the remake of, are you quite not upset, but just like a bit weeded out that back in the mid to late 80s, the single screen platform game was fairly popular, but then they all kind of died out?
Yes. Yes. I think the answer is yes. The way I experienced it was that I just felt so comfortable doing anything I could figure out to do in the Apple II space. And by space, I mean the memory space, the input and output, how you work with the joysticks or the keyboard, the screen. There were great weirdnesses. There were great oddities about how that all worked in the old Apple II. But I knew them. I knew how to make the most of those limitations. And it was kind of a golden age because I did pretty much everything myself. Every sound, every animation, every gameplay thing. I collaborated with other people. I got feedback. I'm not a recluse. I don't live in a cave, but I did everything ultimately. And that felt really good. And it was that era really, you say single screen games. The way I thought of how that worked was that by 86 or so, you pretty much had to have a team writing a game. You couldn't have a single person doing it anymore. And like I say, I can work with others. I did. War in Middle-earth was a team effort. Other games I worked on in the mid-late 80s were team efforts, and I think I contributed very well to them. But it wasn't that golden age. It wasn't that. It's just me and these machine codes commands. It's just me and these numbers and these funny, strange, limited graphic pixels on these strange high-res Apple screen. That was really it was kind of a golden age. And I remember thinking in the late 80s when the first shooting games showed up, and I forget exactly when they did, Doom or Castle Wolfenstein were some of the early in the Apple world. And I don't remember exactly when they showed up, but I remember thinking, really? Because all of my games are about survival. Now, you would say a shooting game is about survival too, but my games were about creative, engaging survival in a dangerous world. And it had nothing to do with shooting anything. It just would never have occurred to me that one of the things I would do would be shoot something. It just would never have occurred to me. And then these games started showing up in the late 80s. And of course, they became their own genre, their own. And in fact, there are times in the history of computer games where you might think that's the only type of game going on. There's much more than that, of course, but there were times when they were so dominant and so popular, first-person shooters. And I was completely baffled. It just is not in the way I think. And I still am. Every time I see a first-person shooting game, I'm just completely bored. It really was an amazing time where I was able to kind of match my sense of what's interesting and fun in the world with these machines, and I could just kind of have free reign to tromp all over inside those machines and make them do as best I could what I wanted them to. But it was a brief golden age. It really was,
So, I mean, like, you sort of say, like, the games that you made were aligned with your sort of sensibilities.
Definitely.
I mean, like, are you excited now with, let's just say, like, the Unreal Engine, which is much more... You hear now of single people making what look like AAA sort of games, like really amazing graphics, atmospheric. Are you actually looking into getting into like that sort of thing, or do you think that sort of game is over for you and you'd continue with a similar sort of style to what you're already used to?
Well, that's really interesting. When I did Dino Eggs Rebirth, it was very much revisiting the feeling of the original 8-bit game and just prying open that world in small, interesting ways. Not like profoundly changing the feel of it. I mean, the silly rhythm of the protagonist, Time Master Tim, hopping along the cliffs and finding eggs. I mean, all of that kind of basic rhythm felt had to stay the same. But, bigger screens. But we were trying very, very carefully, the programmer and I, in Luxembourg, wonderful creative fellow, and we were just trying to be very careful to stay true to the spirit of the original. So that was that project. But it's really interesting you mentioned the tools now, because I am kind of looking at teaching myself C#, and I'm looking at the Unity engine. I am getting involved in a game project now. It is not an action game. It's not an arcade-style game. It's more of a strategy, or a casual, what they call casual game or puzzle game universe. And I can't really talk more about it because of non-disclosure agreements. But I am looking at finding my way into these new tools, at least so I can read the code that other people are writing and not feel completely puzzled. So it'll be interesting to see what I find. My gut feeling, to answer your question, is that my one-person game creator days are over. But I'm not going to rule anything out. I am in a small team with this casual puzzle game, and I need to push myself to learn these new tools. But I do want to learn them at least so I'm not completely a stranger. And this Unreal Engine you mentioned, I've heard of that, and Unity, and it'll be interesting to kind of try to acquaint myself with these new tools. I have not programmed in any seriousness for quite a while, but I do want to get reoriented with the potential.
Yeah, because it's like I've no idea. I've no idea about code. When I was, it must have been about 20 years ago, when I was about 20, that sort of age, and I did buy a book that was just called Basic or something, or C++ or something, and it made no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a leap, and some people think that way, and some people don't. Actually, my wife and I have made most of our career out of user education, user documentation, and in my case, user interface work. And programmers are great, fine, wonderful people. There is a sense in which you have to translate because they live in a code logic world, and the user, God bless them, typically does not. And so a lot of my wife's work in writing documentation and my work in user interface design is just building those bridges between how the programmer thinks and how the real world person thinks. And it's a challenge. It's always a challenge because everyone's mind works and brains work in slightly different ways. And a metaphor or a pattern or a hierarchy that works for one person just doesn't work for the next person. And that's why it's a challenge, but it's an interesting challenge and one I've enjoyed.
So I remember I must have only been about 12, 13. I went over to spend time at one of my relatives' house, and they said to me, "I'll just go up to my uncle. Just go up there, sit with him. You'll be fine." And he must have only been about 15 at the time, 16. And I was sat on the bed, mesmerised watching the screen, and he was just typing for about an hour. Just sat there. I have no idea what the hell he was doing. And it turns out that he was actually developing a game, or a demo to send, and EA actually picked it up.
Oh my gosh.
And he actually moved over to, I think it was Canada, and he actually worked on the EA Fight Night, the boxing games. But yeah, he was just typing away. I'm lost.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, like I say, in the days when I did my programming, it was I pretty much taught myself the assembly language so that I could write the code that would run the fastest in the April. Because I first tried to do my first game, Crisis Mountain, in BASIC, because that was the friendly language that was readily available when you booted up the old Apple II. But I very quickly found out that it wasn't quick enough to do what I, imagined doing. And so they had a book on the shelf there at the community college where I was using the Apple II. As you say, schools, in the UK, apples were in schools. Well, apples were in the community college where I went to teach myself programming. And the book on the shelf was assembly language for the Apple II, and I dug in and figured out how to do it. And, if my schools had had a different type of computer, I probably would have started writing my games on that type of computer. So Apple's investment in schools, I think, was huge key in their success in those years.
So I believe that you sort of said with your good grace that you'll have some codes to give away either on Steam or the Humble Bundle.
Yeah, I'd love to have you, through your One-Up Gaming website's presence on the, however you want to do it, David, I'll send you 10 of each. I'll send you 10 Steam keys to Dino Eggs Rebirth and 10 Humble Bundle store keys to the same game. And yeah, you can have fun. In these times, people, need to stay home sometimes, or they're quarantined, or God knows what's coming this summer and fall. And I'm just delighted to share them with people, and I hope they can enjoy the game. If people want to take a look at the game and see if it's something they're interested in, they can go to the website, dinoeggsrebirth.com. But if you have any fun way to distribute those keys, people just need to make clear whether it's a Steam key they want or a Humble Bundle store key they want. And I'd be delighted if you can send those around.
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect for us. We'll get some tweets and some Facebook sort of like little quizzes or little things to do to try and get those sorted. So I know it's not the perfect sort of time of things, but hopefully you, your family, loved ones are all perfectly fine over there.
Yes, thank you. And I hope the same for you and yours, David. I can't really complain. We're in an area that has not been severely, we're going through it like everyone else. We are wearing masks and being very, very, very careful, but we haven't had a big surge here. I live about 3 hours outside of Seattle, and I've never been more grateful for the distance between me and the big city. And I hope you and yours are safe as well.
Yeah, we're not doing bad. I mean, I can honestly say, considering how big the pandemic has been, I only know, I think, 2 people that have actually had it. Mm-hmm. Or officially had it. They've had the test and it's come back saying they've had it. Mm-hmm. But where I live, it's a large town, not even a city, but it was per capital population number, it was the 10th highest infected rate in the UK.
Yeah. Oh,
wow. But I mean, luckily, in my sort of day job, or I say day job, in my job, I do like 13-hour shifts. I'm a support worker for someone with like autism and that. So I go there like 7:30 in the morning and come back at 8:30 at night.
Oh wow.
Or I go there 7:30 at night and come back 8:30 in the morning. So we have like 13 hours at work. So I'm genuinely that tired. I just go there, do my job, and come straight back home. So I'm not really going out to see what's going on, which I'm actually quite grateful for once.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all adjusting and adapting in our own ways. One of our neighbors, I think, had it here early on. And then I have various kind of friends of friends or children of my college roommates or cousins who probably had it and may or may not have been able to get tests because tests were hard to come by here, particularly in the early weeks. So yeah, I mean, like I say, all in all, we're very, very fortunate. But yeah, can't wait for things to start turning the corner. That's for darn sure. I'm a big Disney fan, so I am watching the parks, the theme parks, the Disney theme parks come back to life very, very, very slowly and gradually and carefully, and looking forward to sometime being able to go back and relax and not have to wear a mask. So we'll see when that is.
Yeah, so I mean, talking about Disney, just today we watched, me and my partner, we watched the new, is it the Mulan movie?
Oh yeah, yeah. What'd you think of it?
It wasn't very good.
Oh really?
No. They did a bit of changing to the story, and they cut the songs out, but they've still got the music, but they cut the songs out, and it looks very cheap. It looks like a lot of the scenes, they're stood in front of a green screen with a light on them. It just doesn't look right. So.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, I'm not sure if I would have gone to a theater to see it anyway. But it is really interesting to see how Hollywood and the film industry is coping with this, and how to try to get things back into production and how to release them. And oh man, it is really hitting that industry super, super hard. But of course, theater too, live theater. Oh my gosh, I just feel so for all of the performing artists their just lives are just completely undercut. Theater actors, musicians, just scarring, just taking a whole year or so out of their lives, and very, very, very sobering.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how the American government are trying to spin things, but I know in the UK they're all trying to I would sort of say wishy-washy about everything, because I don't think they want to sort of come out and say, yes, it's going to be another year of what's happening, basically.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anyone knows. I don't know.
I don't know in America, but the UK, we've just opened the schools again, and college and universities are starting to go back in about 2 or 3 weeks. So I think things might sort of more might sort of spike again. So hopefully not, but
yeah. Well, gradually over here, the ability to test is improving, and gradually the ability to test quickly is improving, and schools are carefully, in some areas, going back, colleges, but not at full strength. They're all being very, very, very careful. So, who knows? But there's talk of vaccine here, and of course, you'd love to see everyone be able to get it instantly, but that can't happen. It has to be rolled out. Yeah, it'll be certainly months. But leadership is telling us the truth, even if it's unpleasant, and good leadership is rare. So that's that's one of the aspects going on, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I think we'll move on. As long as everyone's safe, just move on.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have a quick break, and then we'll have an interview with our good friend Jon Hare about us and his Social Soccer 2020 game that's available now on Apple Arcade. So we're back in a couple of seconds.
Hi, I'm Jim Bagley. You probably know me from all the games I've done over the years, especially the Specky ones and the Spectrum Next. I'd like to congratulate One Up Gaming on their 250th episode. Congratulations, guys.
And coming up next on One Up Gaming, this week's interview.
And we're back. It's episode 250. It's One Up Gaming. It's me, David, and we've got Jon Hare with us today.
Hello.
So, John, you might remember, oh God, it was a couple of years ago now when I think it was Read Only Memory released the Sensible Software book. Just for our, it's not to do with Sensible. I know it's a shame, but we've gotten a Sega Dreamcast Collected Works book by Read Only Memory. It's like a big, massive hardback book with loads of pictures in. We're going to give that away to someone on our Twitter today. Well, not today, but it's recorded, but we'll be giving that away to someone for our 250th episode. So that's like a £30 book, so hopefully someone will like that.
Nice.
And while I'm talking about it, did you have any input into the Sensible Soccer book?
Oh, the Sensible Software book?
Yes, software, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely tons. I mean, myself and Gary Penn worked very closely on it, and Gary would write stuff up and send me drafts, and I'd make comments and send it back, and every chapter we went through about 2 or 3 drafts like that, so very much so. Yeah, he came to stay with me. He lives up in Scotland, Gary, and he came to stay with me in my house down in England for about 3 days. We drank a lot of wine and we talked a lot of shit, basically. But it was really good fun. Yeah.
It's the best way to be.
Yep.
So yeah, hopefully we'll give that away to someone. And so people might remember you, I guess I would still say, to me, of a guy nearly 40, the most remembered games I remember from you guys would be Sensible Soccer, Cannon Fodder and Megalomania. Because the stuff you did just before then were just too. We had, I think we had a Spectrum Sinclair ZX thing, whatever the hell it was called.
Yeah. And
then I went straight on to the Mega Drive.
Well, you didn't have a Commodore 64, so you missed the first chapter in Sensible Software. Whizball, Parallax, Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, Microprose Soccer, etc., etc. There are big games. But But
my brother did have the Amiga 500, and that's where I fell in love with Sensible World of Soccer.
Well, you had Sensible World of Soccer, Megalomania, Cannon Fodder, WizKid, Sensible Golf on that. So, yeah, we followed Commodore basically from the Commodore 64 to the Amiga. And so if you missed that chapter, the Commodore 64 chapter, you'd have missed those times. They were more avant-garde, maybe a little bit more avant-garde. Mind you, Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll and WizKid are pretty avant-garde as well. So.
Yeah, so out of those sort of early games, which one would you say would be your personal favourite? Maybe not the one that's stood the test of time, but was your favourite at the time?
This is like asking someone to choose who's their favourite child, It's really not...
Everyone's got a favourite child. You just don't tell them.
Everyone's favourite in a different way with kids, and it's the same with the games. It's like, which one am I most proud of? Sensible World of Soccer. It's easy. It's the most successful. It's like the top 10 games of all time thing that Stanford University did. It's made me the most money. It's given me my house, and that was great. and I'm a football fan, and I love what we've done. We've genuinely added something to football. That's great. In terms of, but football games aren't that creative, you know. They're pretty safe. They're not like, if you ask me for a really out there game, like, I guess the ones that really push the boundaries are like Whizball, Megalomania, WizKid. And then you've got games like Cannon Fodder, which aren't necessarily normally my type of game, but I enjoyed constructing that game from how we made it, and I liked doing the music, and I did my best level design on Cannon Fodder. Personally, it's my best ever level design work. So, different games, you know, I've got different favourites. I mean, I loved making Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll, and it never came out. I loved making that game. It's just a pity about the programming, but, you know. Every game's got its pluses and minuses of why you liked it or didn't like it. That's the way it goes, man.
But yeah, it's like back then in the mid-90s, Sensi Soccer, hands down for me. But now, looking back, 30 years ago, is it? Something like that. It's scary. I would say it's either Cannon Fodder or Megalomania. I loved Cannon Fodder's movement in the gameplay, but I really loved the actual Megalomania, the fact that it had the skills and the improvements, and for a 12 to 15-year-old lad, it wasn't too complicated, but it wasn't too dumbed down.
Well, what I liked about Megalomania is it's in one of our creative out there games that happened to just be at the right time. So, you know, it really pushed the boundaries of then. You know, we had speech in the game that wasn't around so much. It was the first ever game with the tech tree. It was kind of an early kind of strategy stroke God game, if you like. And if I was to do a remake of any game now, that would be the one I would choose to do first, because it's the one which it never really got its. It was number one in UK and different countries in Europe, and then Robert Maxwell jumped off his boat, Microsoft exploded, and the game lost its momentum a month into its release. And, you know, it's the one game that you're right. I mean, it could do with another breath of fresh air, and, you know, it's like I said, I would divide our games into two camps. Like the safe games were like the football games. All of the football games. Football games are always safe. Even like a sequel to Cannon Fodder, that's pretty safe. 3D Tennis was weird. Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit in a way was quite safe because it was a game maker. But then you got the weird games. Parallax was quite safe. It was quite an orthodox kind of shooter, really. Whizball's out there, like I say, and 3D Tennis is too far out there. Same as WizKid. But Megalomania was about the right balance of like being creative, but also being to point. So yeah, it's one of my favourites as well. It was the most difficult one to make of all of the games, Megalomania.
Because I mean, like when we look back at the history of the sensible soccer, I think the one that doesn't get remembered, but I think plays a really good game of football, is the Sensible Soccer 2006.
Now that, you're correct. And Sensible Soccer 2006 suffered from...
it should have been delayed a couple of months and came up for the 360.
What should have happened is, they shouldn't have had big heads. Not my decision. I didn't like the big heads, and there was a bug. There was a bug in the game to do with the goalkeepers, and the guys fixed it by sucking the ball to the goalkeeper's hands at some places. And you know, it's exactly the kind of thing we've actually resisted with the current Social Soccer release, where you've got like a couple of bugs with the goalkeeper, and how can we fix them? But I tell you, the way to fix a goalkeeper is not to suck the ball to his hands. It just really pisses everybody off, and that kind of actually was a bit of a death knell for Sensible Soccer 2006. Actually, on the football games, this is something really rather cool for me. So I'm going for a rather unique. I not intentionally, but I happen to be going for a rather unique award is the wrong word, honour, with the release of Social Soccer 2020. So it's 5 decades in a row having a number one football game. So in 1988, Micropro Soccer was a number one football game on the Commodore 64. Sensible Soccer was number one on Amiga and ST and maybe PC as well. And then you had 94 with Sensible World of Soccer and all of that. So the 90s is covered. And then in 2004, the mobile version of Sensible Soccer, I think it was 2004, 2005, was number one for mobile.
Which that was quite good.
It was good. It was the old Nokia phones. It was pre-touch screen phones, so it didn't have that long a life, but it was actually good. And
Do I remember rightly where it was actually more like just free kicks and...
No, it was a full game. It was a full game. It was actually really cool. And actually we really liked it, and we even did a rugby game afterwards off the same kind of engine idea because it was so good. And then in the last decade, I hadn't had a hit, but 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the decade, this December just gone, 2019, we got to number one for 1 week with Social Soccer on Apple Arcade. So that gave me my number one in that decade. So that's like the 80s, the 90s, the noughties and the teenies. And now it's the 20s. So if this game can get to the top of the Apple Arcade charts at any point, Social Soccer 2020, that's 5 decades in a row for me of a number one football game. So that's my current little funny thing to cross my fingers and hope happens. Well, I've got 10 years to get it right if this one fails, you know. But I think that's quite nice, you know, when you look back on your career, because you're doing things bit by bit by bit, but to have some kind of continuity. I've always done in my life, like do a football game, do something else, go back and do another football game, go back, like you said, 2006, go back and do Sensible Soccer. It's like been recurring for me throughout my career, and it would be really nice to do that. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to manage the 30s, but then I'll be into my 60s, you know, by the time we get to 2030. But you never know. But yeah, it's been fun making all these games over all this time.
So I mean, I know Sensible Soccer is probably, maybe not now, but back 10, 20 years, it was like the second or third most recognised football game.
Uh-huh.
Do you reckon if Codemasters decide to do something, that they could ask you to come back on board and help out with a new Sensible Soccer?
Well, they could, but you've got to understand from my perspective, I've been working with Social Soccer for 5 years, and this is mine now, you know. And Sensible Soccer isn't mine anymore. So, any game maker, their allegiance is to their new baby, you know, anything maker. So, of course, I love Sensible Soccer to bits, but yeah, I wouldn't want to compete with my own game in Social Soccer either. So, there'd have to be a good degree of separation for that to happen. But who knows? Who knows in 5-10 years' time where all this stuff will be? I've got no idea at the moment. We're too far away to tell.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd sort of worry about is I always fear when they sort of say, and the original director is back after 10 years with the new game. It's like, well, is it because you've run out of ideas and you're just trying to get the name of the original developer just to come back, just to get the hype up again?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, right, I'll tell you honestly, Sensible Soccer, Cannon Fodder, Megalomania, Whizball, they've all had their time.
Yeah.
Even Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll, which didn't come out. It's too late to resurrect things. You know, we've spent 5 years crafting Social Soccer to be a game for now, based on modern technology, on modern stuff that was, you know, you wouldn't have had online PvP in Sensible Soccer because it didn't even exist. You know, you wouldn't have had card collection because that didn't really come in at that point. You wouldn't have had cross-platform play. You know, there's so much stuff that comes in, or touchscreens didn't exist. You know, I could go on. A joystick that went any more than 8 directions didn't exist. Every piece of work and art you make is framed by the time it's released in, and you can't authentically make a Sensible Soccer product now.
Yeah.
That was designed in 1991 and came out in 1992. And that is 28 years ago. So, I mean, should we re-release Rocky as well, like it's contemporary? How far back?
I remember, it must be about 4 years ago, I think, when you were on before, and I had one of our other hosts on, like Eddie, who was like a 17-year-old lad, and I showed him a video of the original Sensible Soccer, and he was just like, that is crap. And I tried to explain to him, by modern standards, it's not cutting edge because it's 20 years old, or it's however old it is. But back in '93, that was one of the finest gameplay you could actually get.
It's what we said 5 years ago when we started making this current project. All that we're doing with Sociable Soccer is what we did with Sensible Soccer back then, but for new platforms. So you approach the game and the technology from the same viewpoint, but looking at where are we now, what do we want to put in the game. And okay, it's a different era, it's a different team, it's taken a different amount of time and stuff like that. But Eddie will probably prefer Sociable Soccer to Sensible Soccer because it looks more modern, it plays more modern, it's made for modern stuff he cares about more. And that's just the way it really is. You can't get people to go back and love old stuff they don't connect with.
Yeah.
It's like it's really evident now. It's like when I look at the stuff on the TV. I mean, I'm 54 and I was born in '66. So my whole childhood, early teens is in the 70s. And when I watch music on the telly, it's like the 70s stuff is what makes me really engage with it and feel like relate to it, And even the 80s stuff, I'm like, I remember when the 80s came in, and they did that, and it was a bit naff. I mean, actually, early 80s I quite like, but it gets a little bit later, and I'm like, And yet, some people, maybe you more even, in the 80s, that's what they really relate to. Because we care about what we grow up with, If it's in the 80s and the 90s, and that was what you relate to and engage with, that's what you care about. And for me, it's like more 70s stuff. And then by the early 80s, I was trying to push myself out there and make music and make games. And I wasn't following other people so much. I was trying to forge my identity. And yet my dad put some of the stuff he grew up with in the 40s or the 50s. I'm like, what is this? So, I mean, I like some of the old Sinatra music and the big band stuff, but some of it I don't like at all. And I think people have to understand that with any retro gaming stuff. It's like, it's been interesting with the Sociable Soccer journey that a lot of the Sensible Soccer fans, they don't really want what we're doing. They want exactly Sensible Soccer to just work online, on an Amiga preferably, with an 8-directional joystick. So, you can't... There's so much emotional content around stuff. Like when you showed Eddie that game, it just shows it. Like you've got your own total emotional world connected with this game. And then he goes, the graphics look a bit crap. Well, he's right. They do compared to now. And he can't see any more than that. And it's because he's got zero emotional connection with it. So he's just going on some flat thing of it. And, eventually what we're doing now, we're saying, we're doing this new game and it's great and it's got this great PvP and it's cutting edge. And eventually people looking at it go, that looks terrible. Go forward 40 years, this will look rubbish, wherever it is. They look at the very, very current, latest Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty or FIFA and go, that looks garbage. It's guaranteed in 40 years' time that's what people are going to do. So you just have to accept it. Sometimes you have to accept things are in the past, is what I'm saying, and just be tranquil and cool with it and appreciate that great past thing you had.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to look back fondly on what was done, but you can't. It's like if you were to do like another, as you say, like a football game, you can't do Sensible Soccer again because people's expectations are completely different 30 years later.
It would, for me, it's worse than that because it would be me doing it. I would be breaking my own baby.
Yeah.
So it's all well and good for people to say about it and imagine how it would be, but we had the chance to call this game Sensible Soccer. It was possible for us. And I made a decision I do not want to do that because I care about Sensible Soccer too much. And I know how things can go wrong sometimes, and I didn't want to take that risk. And whatever, I knew that I wanted to establish a new game, not go through an old one again that's not even mine. It's like, you know, as an artist, that's not the right thing to do. It's not the correct way to go. There's a time when, you know, you make some classic comedy or whatever, and you shouldn't make another series of it because it would make it worse. And I'm glad we made the decision to not do that this time. So, I mean, I'm happy with that mobile version, which was the last one I really put any focus into. And for me, that was the last time I really focused on it. Oh, apart from 2006 with David Darling, which was good. 2006 is the last time I really put much energy into sensible soccer. So what's that, 14 years ago now? That's about right.
So just before you go, I will just mention something that where I work. It's I work with people with autism, and we've had a team. We must have had about 30 different people working with this one lad where I work, and 16 of them have left in the last couple of years. Yeah. And I wanted to put on the wall little tiny flagstones with their names on in honour of cannon fodder, but my boss said no. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, that would be nice. Like little pictures of them as they've left.
Yeah.
It'd be beautiful. Did you paint a whole hill on a wall with a few poppies on it?
We've got the hill and the tree, and we used our hands as the leaves for the tree. But yeah, I wanted to go a bit further, but my boss said no, it's inappropriate.
Inappropriate. Don't do inappropriate things these days. It's not worth the hassle, David. You should know that.
I do know that. So anyway, John, thank you.
Hidden anymore.
Thank you so much for coming on. We hope Social Soccer 2020 should be out by the time this is up. And
Absolutely.
We hope it's amazing and you get your 5 decades of number ones.
I hope so. Yeah, go even if I don't, all is not lost. Please go to Apple Arcade and try out Social Soccer if you can. Like I say, the first month is free. Get your iPhone, your iPad, or your Mac. Download Social Soccer. Subscribe to Apple Arcade. The first month's free. And you get 130 games, one of which is called Social Soccer 2020. Download that, play it, and feed back to David and say what you thought of it. And that would be great. We'd like that very much.
Yep. And I will nick someone's iPad and I will download it myself.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Dave.
Okay, thank you, John.
Okay. See ya. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for that, John. And now we're going to have another... Well, I'm going to go away for a bit. Going to let Brian have a quick chat with you all. Before that, though, going to have another congratulations message from the founder of Funstock, Andy Pearson.
Congratulations on getting to 250 episodes, guys. That's a big achievement in any book. Well done. Keep it up. Speak to you at 500.
Hey guys, Justin here. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. We love all of our listeners. Yes, even you. If you get a chance, head on over to iTunes and give us a rating. We really appreciate it, and it really helps us out. It'll keep the good times going for a long time to come. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Hey guys, it's Brian Eccles. Welcome to OUG's official podcast. Wow, guys, we made it to 250. David, man, congratulations. I wish I could be there in person to congratulate you and take you out for a beer or two. It's amazing. When I first started, I want to say a little over 2 years ago, I was doing this for fun. And I wanted to make this into something real good. I wanted to help David make this into something real good. But now it's like, I'm in this seriously now for the long haul. I want to help transform this and get more audience in here and get a lot more going on in here because I'm passionate about video gaming reviews. I feel that a lot of the game reviews out there, like IGN and GameSpot, they don't really give the game a thorough analysis. A lot of the reporting in the gaming industry is biased now. I know it's just my opinion, but I really want to take it to the next level. So I want to thank you guys for joining us here because this is an amazing podcast. This is an amazing moment. 250. I got some gaming news for you guys to share. I got some reviews for you guys to share. I just wanted to give you guys the all-around and preview of what's going on. Because yesterday was a monumental day in gaming history. The Xbox Series X pre-orders, and oh my God, did they sell out fast. I wanted to let you guys know about it because I myself was in the crazy hectic madness trying to get one. And I thought I had one. I thought GameStop had everything handled. I thought that GameStop had everything professionally ready when it said, you are in line. Do not refresh. Do not refresh. And oh my God, it kept refreshing itself. So I was getting agitated. But eventually we got through the checkout process, got to the end. They charged us. We used GameStop's new quad pay. They charged us. Unfortunately today, I see the news. No Xbox. There's no pre-orders for anything sitting in there at all. So we lost out. Hopefully we get refunded the money from the quad pay. But for those of you that didn't know, now that GameStop has quad pay, you can buy virtually any console for a fraction of the price. You're still paying full price long term, but you pay so much now, then you get paid in 2 weeks, you pay some more. 2 more weeks, you pay 2 more whatever percentages that's left, and then 2 weeks after that, you pay the rest remaining plus taxes all off, and it's yours. You get to get it on day one. So basically how it works is you pay a portion now, 2 weeks pay a portion, 2 weeks later pay a portion, 2 weeks after that you pay a portion. And there's no way to duck out of that because you still have to pay it off. So they're still going to bill your credit card or bill your bank card. And I like that. I just wished it would have been more easy to do when it came to the PlayStation 5 because it wasn't available when the PS5 launched. It just now became recently available and now there's options to do the PS5 that way. So think about that when it comes to holiday season. Xbox also wowed the world with news yesterday that they had acquired ZeniMax Media, which is Bethesda Softworks. So that means Skyrim 6 probably will become an Xbox exclusive. It also means that Elder Scrolls Online will still stay on PlayStation, and so will the announced games recently that are coming for PS5, but Microsoft said that they're going to consider games on a case-by-case basis in the future, but they're going to leave the team the way it is. They're going to leave the studio alone to do their own thing, but they're still going to try to push for Microsoft exclusives. In other news, Microsoft news, Xbox Game Pass now has all of the DLC for Destiny 2 and New Light, when it becomes available in November, will also be on Game Pass for free with your Destiny 2 game, which is also now free. It's been free for a year now, I want to say. But that's good for me because me and Jessica, we love Destiny 2. We're hooked, and we're also now recently giving Anthem a try, which is supposed to be getting a reboot. I still prefer Destiny 2 over Anthem because Destiny 2 is fun when you're playing with others. We've also got some other news that Steam is now going to start sharing gaming news. So if you're a Steam gamer, you'll be getting gaming news delivered, but you'll also be getting exclusive news from our site too. So don't forget to check us out as well. From time to time, we get some amazing reviews coming in from me. I want to talk to you about those here shortly, but oh wow, we've got a lot of games that are out right now. Like right now, we've got the new Marvel's Avengers that just came out. My birthday was in September. So happy birthday to me. I got an awesome game that's extremely rare for my birthday that I wanted to tell you guys about. RPG Maker MV. The limited edition is what I wanted. That's why it's extremely rare, because the limited edition's sold out now. And the limited edition came with a journal and a soundtrack and a hardcover box. So, the limited edition, it's still worth it because I can make notes and everything in the little journal that comes with it. And the soundtrack is huge, like 70 tracks on it. There's also, if you remember gaming back in the day, Chips Challenge, where you had to avoid fires and obstacles and move the guy around the little blocks to be able to collect things and escape, is now free on Steam. We've also got news when it comes to the latest Baldur's Gate game. Baldur's Gate 3 is early access, has been released in October. It's been delayed, in other words. So, if you're expecting to get early access on PC, it'll be available in October, probably late October. I'm still catching up on Baldur's Gate myself, but the game series is really fun. And a lot of people are complaining about number 3 that hasn't even come out yet. The art style. They don't like the animations. They don't like how it's going realistic and not going top-down anymore. But I personally don't care. It's set in the same world. Games have to change. And I'm all for the change. So that's all for the gaming news. Now let's go on to the gaming reviews, recaps. I recently reviewed a game that I was looking forward to, Kingdoms of Amalur. Re-Reckoning. And let's just say, this one didn't really deserve a replay. It's basically the same story as the original. The combat mechanics was a little bit more smooth than the original, but not much has changed. Graphics improved maybe just a tiny bit compared to what it should have been, because this is next generation compared to what generation it first released on, which was PS3. But now it's current generation, and PS3 is considered past generation. So, for that kind of a game, just go check out my review on that, and you'll see exactly why I'm a bit disappointed, and I'm just going to wait until it goes down in price to pick it up with the DLC next year. Because the DLC is not coming out till next year, but this one does include all of the DLC from the first game that was purchasable. But if you already own all the DLC and the game, like I do on PC, you don't need it. So play it that way. They also didn't add a New Game Plus yet. A lot of people are arguing that it doesn't need a New Game Plus, but I'm still thinking that yes, it should be able to have a New Game Plus if you decide to keep the same character class, because there is multiple choices made throughout the game. There's also my review on Call of Duty Mobile and Call of Duty Warzone. Call of Duty Mobile has been fun. I've been addicted to it. You can use PlayStation and Xbox controllers, wireless ones, on iPads. So that adds to the fun for me. I'm still waiting on Apple to let Microsoft have Game Pass come over to their tablets so that I can play. I mean, I could play it on my older Android tablet that I also have, but I'd rather do it on the iPad, which is a much bigger screen than my Android tablet. However, though, Call of Duty the mobile version reminds me of Black Ops 2. And that's why I love it so much. That's why I'm addicted. It's free to play. You don't really have to pay anything to unlock anything. You can just unlock most of the stuff that's important just by playing through the game a lot. And that's what I like. I like being able to play through the game a lot. I like the grind of leveling up and unlocking gear and unlocking more things to do, more characters, more skins. I don't really need skins I'm not one of those guys that need a lot of skins. I just take the game as a base of how it plays out. But it's been a lot of fun. Now, Call of Duty Warzone, however, it's only fun if you get on a team of people who know what they're doing, but it kind of forces you into a team deathmatch style situation where you actually have to work together to stay alive. And you have to buy weapons in the game, not with real cash, but you have to find cash in game and then use that to buy weapons. You have to try to outsmart your opponent. And these lobbies can go anywhere up to 150 people in one lobby. Imagine that when it's a free-for-all. Oh my God. If you're really good, then you might survive to the very end. But if you're not, well, you won't survive very long, because I'm not really that good at Call of Duties. I was really good at Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And I still play that from time to time. I still jump on the old PS3 to play that. It's still fun to play. So those reviews are incoming. I also went and played Vambrace and the Coma 2 by developers Devespresso, and they're going to be on later in this podcast for an interview that me and David are covering, and oh my God, it's amazing. The Coma 2 actually challenged me. I'm still not even through the entire game. I tried to get as far as I could for the review, to give a good review, and I ended up still giving a good review to them because, hey, I'm over here scratching my head thinking about how much frustration just thinking about this game. Thinking about both of these games. The Coma 2 is hard. The Coma 1 is hard. This kind of game style is hard. But a lot of people laugh and think, ooh, it's a comic style, comic style cutscenes. This is going to be pretty easy. It's not as easy as people think because it's challenging. You get this villain who is chasing after you and popping out of nowhere, destined to kill. She wants to kill you. And you gotta find places to hide. I'm sitting there, I just want to get to my next point. Leave me alone. It's stressful. We also got the review for Vambrace coming up from me as well. That's popping up on the site. And, hey, Vambrace is fun, but also frustrating. People will die. Do not get attached to the party members. If you're already thinking, hey, this sounds like Fire Emblem, but without the tactical, then yeah. If you're thinking this sounds like Darkest Dungeon, then yeah. But it's not like Darkest Dungeon because Darkest Dungeon is even more frustrating. It's similar playstyle, but it's just difficult to the point where I wish there was an easy difficulty level, honestly. So we got that coming up on the site for you guys. We also have a review of WWE Battlegrounds. 2K graciously gave me a copy of WWE Battlegrounds to cover on both sites, and I want to say I have not had this much fun with a wrestling game since the PS2 era. Yes, I admit I loved the story mode of WWE 2K20 with Trey. I think there's Red and Trey. The game was fun, but despite all the glitches, it just didn't get a good review from me, and I wanted to give it a good review. I wanted to be one of those very few people who are unbiased and give it a good review, but 2K20 just didn't hit the spot for me. But WWE Battlegrounds hits the spot because I'm an arcade gamer. I love arcade games. I've been playing a lot of the arcade game called Gunsmoke on my Super Retro arcade. I'm going to be getting a review in for that too, but I love arcade games. I love arcade feels. And this game gives it arcade feel. I saw some people out there saying that there's too much to unlock. There's too much grind. I like grind. It gives me a reason to come back to play more of the game to unlock more stuff. You have to unlock parts for your battlegrounds to create them. You have to unlock parts for your player to create them. There's the regular campaign mode, which is set in a comic book style setting. The story's told comic books, and it's not told with voiceovers. Then you have your character, your own non-player character that you can create. I should say player character. Your own player character that you can create, but you cannot play them through the campaign mode, as the campaign mode follows their own custom superstars that they created. But there's character challenges that you can use with your character that you create to power them up. And that gets you unlock points as well. There's also daily challenges. So, like those mobile games you have to click on, and you click daily challenges to make sure you check in every day. Well, this has that as well. Every day, new challenges pop up, and if you didn't accomplish the ones the day before, you're still stuck with the same ones, and you can only get rid of one challenge per day if you feel that it's too hard for you to reach. But it's a way to get bonus cash and points, and it rank up faster. I love WWE 2K Battlegrounds. That review is going to be posted on the site here soon as well to let you guys know how I feel about this game and why I think it's worth picking up. I have mine on the Nintendo Switch. The other game that I talked about earlier, RPG Maker MV, I'm creating an RPG. So I can't really review this game fully just yet because of all the aspects of the game as a whole. I have to check up on everything, but the tutorial is very basic. It doesn't really give you a full feel of what the game's like. You have to access the help section when you play the game and create your own RPG. But I'm looking forward to this because I've always wanted to create my own games. And I have the original RPG Maker for PS2. I never got around to using it much because it was too confusing for me. But this one doesn't seem to be that confusing. It seems to be straightforward. Here's how you do things. Let's design your map, and then you can design your game. And if you have the PC, you can do even more advanced versions of the games. But my fun part is downloading other people's games. That's one reason why I wanted this, because it gives me a chance to play other people's games, longevity, with lots of RPGs to play for years to come. I love it. I'm an RPG gamer, and I'm an arcade gamer. I'm pretty much an all-around gamer now with certain games because, hey, I'm getting the feels of certain game types. Which brings me to my last game that I'm giving a review for. To you guys, I want to give you guys a heads up about. Marvel's Avengers dropped this month. Now, I've never really cared much for comic book characters until recently. In the last 6 years, I want to say that I was 6, 7. No, it was longer than that. I want to say in the last 10 years, I was in the Marvel's Avengers movie, the first one that came out, and it really grabbed me. It brought my attention to Marvel because I made a lot of friends and people I met and just really got into the comic book culture because I used to be in it as a kid, but not as heavily as I am now, and I'm still not that heavy. Like, I don't go seeking comics as much, but I do love the movies, and I do love the characters, and I love this game. I didn't at first. I'm like, why are you making me play as Miss Marvel? I don't want to play as Miss Marvel. This game is not called Miss Marvel. This game is called The Avengers. Well, The Avengers, let's just say, having to run around, and this is a spoiler alert, partially, for the game. I'm just putting this out there just in case you guys decide to go play this game. I wanted to give you this heads up in advance. If you don't like the aspect of having to chase down the Avengers and find them one by one to reunite the Avengers while playing as Miss Marvel the majority of the time, this game is not for you. However, upon playing this game, after first judging this new character that I didn't know anything about and I didn't really care about because it wasn't the old school Avengers that I am part of, that I grew up with, then I changed my mind, and now I'm liking it because you also get to choose which character you want to play as later on as you unlock more. Just do not go into the multiplayer. It spoils a lot. It basically will not give you a good playthrough if you just play for the multiplayer because your characters are starting at level 1. You got to have time to level them up in-game. So, that's coming up soon as well. But, that's all for the gaming news. That's all for the game reviews from me. If you want to see the full in-depth reviews for these games that I mentioned, go check them out at our official website, OUG Official. As always, stay tuned on the Facebook page because we're going to be having giveaways and things like that popping up. Giving away PC codes, giving away game codes, giving away a Dreamcast book, which is it's beautiful. It's holographic, it's glossy. I like it. I want one for myself, but this one's for you guys. So stay tuned to the channel as well. In the meantime, this is Brian Eccles with the news and the reviews.
Do you have trouble sleeping? Tossing and turning all night? Nothing you do seems to help. You're not getting your recommended 6 to 8 hours of sleep each night. Well, now there's a solution. Now there's Fat Cat Fly. With Fat Cat Fly, you'll easily get the sleep that you deserve. Download for free on the iOS App Store, and you're guaranteed to get a good night's sleep with very few side effects, as you help a fluffy kitty eat all the junk food that he wants. Side effects may include sleeplessness and desire for cheeseburgers if erection lasts more than 5 hours. See a physician. Try Fat Cat Fly today. Visit facebook.com/fatcatfly because you deserve a better life.
So, thank you, John, for that. It's still David. It's still also David. It's still episode 250 of the One Up Gaming podcast. So, thank you all for listening. Keep an eye out on our Facebook page, so just search One Up Gaming. Again, we'll be giving out some codes for David's game there. And we'll also follow us on Twitter, which is at OUG Official, and we'll be giving out some codes on there. You can visit our website, which is oneupgaming.co.uk. You can help us out by going to our Patreon site, which is patreon.com/OUG. We have official merchandise like mugs and t-shirts at bluecyborg.com. Just search One Up Gaming. We have a CD available to buy. 20% of each sale will go to the Child's Play charity. It's called Games Inspired Music, and that's available on the Play Store, the Apple Store, Apple Music, all those sort of things, Spotify. It's all available everywhere. We've got our first 100 podcasts available at audiobooksontape.com, and that is £9, and £1 of that goes to the Diabetes UK charity. Please visit our Twitch site, so it's twitch.tv/OUG official, and yeah, just send us messages on Twitter. It's the easiest way to message us, just at OUG official. And please follow, like, and give stars for the podcast just on like iTunes or Podbean or any of the other sort of services that you use to consume your podcasts. So I believe that is it for me for the episode 250. So David, have you got anything else you'd like to mention, or is it all golden?
It's all golden. What a great phrase. And congratulations again on 250. And it's been great fun catching up with you, and appreciate your support of games, interest in games and retro games, and really appreciate it. Great fun.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You bet. You're welcome.
All right. So thank you, and we'll see you again next week.
Hey guys, Justin here. I just wanted to say that I've been thinking about you. I've been thinking about you a lot. Yes, you. in particular, in that way. And I wanted to say, I think you're great. I've always said that about you. And I was wondering, if you think we're great, if you could give us a quick rating on iTunes, we'd really appreciate it. It would really, really help us out in that, podcasty sort of way. And if you're feeling particularly festive, perhaps even a little saucy, maybe stop by our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/OUG and see if you can't slip a few bucks our way. After all, every little penny or whatever space money they use in Europe helps out the show. Thanks for listening. OUG Gaming will always be free, but with your support, we can always move forward and always be better.
Go baby, go baby, go baby, go baby. I love you, said I love you. Never put nothing above you. Won't let go once I can hug you on the floor. They hate because you let them know that you the ish. Now they hating not because you at the club and proving it. And so they choosing it too late cause now they using it. Can't wait from how you doing it. I know that they pursuing it. You will kindly tell them now my baby's here to watch me go. And for him I put on a show. You just blessed to be here so. My baby goes on. Her body rolls on. I tell her hold on. We making love with clothes on. Been on it so long. I think we gotta go. With my grown man on. You know that I love you so. Just go, baby, go now. Go now. Baby, go now. Go now. Baby, go now. Baby, go now. Just go, baby, go now. Go now. I love when you go for me. I love when you go for me. I love when you go for me. Say I love when you go for me. 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 Say I love when you go for me.
I tell my baby go, but she's not even going though. It's the trust I have in her. Feelings what do say to her. Yeah, I'm feeling kinda slick. I'm loving how I swim in it. No, I'm not taming her. The only one engraving it. Sign it still right from her lips. You need to know that she's my miss. Treat her like a treasure though. I never wanna let her go. I keep her right in front of me. My heart she will forever be. I do this so she'll never see. Life with me no misery. You deserve the world, my queen. Yeah, I'm back down on one knee. A boy to a man that you have seen. No matter who's wrong, it's you and me. I'm coming for you, baby, so we can stay happy. I'm trying to work so hard for you and me.
Baby, go now. Go, baby, go. Baby, go. Go, baby, go, baby, go, baby, go. Baby, go. Ha. Go, baby, go. Go, baby, go. Baby, go now. Just go, baby, go now. I love when you go for me. Go for me. I love when you go for me. I love when you go for me. Say I love when you go for me. 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 Say I love when you go for me. Say my baby's so bad, she can get it so glad that she loves me, know that. I'm a hubby so sad, say you looking so mad. Oh, you didn't know that. Next time you should check the ring. I know that one's a throwback. I know you see her flashing it, especially when she gets it long. I'm rubbing on and grabbing it. I tell my girl, go ahead and go. Baby, go now. Baby, go now. Go now. Baby, go now. Baby, go now. Baby, go now. Baby, go now. I love when you go for me. I love when you go for me. I love when you go for me. Say I love when you go for me. 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 Say I love when you go for me. Yo, go baby, go. Just
L-G-E.
Yeah, L-G-E. Saint and Conte, get it.
We got it. We got it. We got it.